Hey everybody, welcome to Orion Art. So I've decided to make a new log video, a vlog, because well, it's been a little bit more than a week since the last one, and because I have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to talk about roughly the Patreon situation. For those who haven't heard, there's like after Tumblr, there's no waves on the side of Patreon. Now, and so I'm going to talk. I will make a synthesis of the story behind that, of what I understood of it, and also how it's going to affect me. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the website. I've finished to make a website, a functional website, and I'm going to talk about it and how I'm going to use it and the nice, cool feature that there is in it. So the Patreon situation after the Tumblr apocalypse, we now have another wave of problems on the side of Patreon. So for those who aren't aware, recently Patreon started to ban, has banned one YouTuber of the name of Sargon of Akkad, which is a political commentator, somewhat controversial, very critical of the social justice warrior kind of thing. So he was banned because he said the N-word 10 months ago on another YouTube channel's podcast. And the annoying thing with that is, well, we can first criticize the reason, but of why he was banned. Is it really that bad of a thing? What he did, in the context of what he did, I recommend you to go look in the links below, where I will put my sources and my where I got the information, which is mainly from Tim Pool, an independent journalist, and from Matt Christiansen, another commentator. I don't know if he's a journalist or more a commentator, but so the issue is that since Sargon of Akkad was banned, a lot of people were unhappy about why he was banned, the reasons given, the explanations given by Patreon. Patreon contacted Tim Pool and Matt Christiansen, and the answer they gave to them was very unsatisfying and not very comforting for the people who were afraid that Patreon would start to ban people based on ideological reason, with a strong bias going towards a certain kind of ideology and belief, and being more accepting of other, regardless of how much these different ideologies could be aggressive or actually dangerous. So the issue is that since a lot of people have left Patreon, we have big Patreon creator like Sam Harris that have left because he was unsatisfied by the ideological, and he left for I guess, moral reasons. And there are a bunch of people who are actually following now. More and more people are living mostly on the side of the political sphere. But the issue is that it sort of have a ripple effect. And what I've observed recently is that my Patreon um, has stopped growing compared to previous months. Previous month, my Patreon will every end start of the month I will lose a bunch of patrons, which is normal because people would just stop pledging after 1 month, let's say. But I will regenerate that loss, and I will grow a little bit during the month that follow. So let's say I lose 50 patrons. The month that follow, I would win 75. So I will have always that little growth at the end of each month. And this month is actually the first time that my Patreon has stopped growing, that I'm seeing a decrease, like people are leaving progressively and no one new is coming. And I think that one element, it's not the only element because I'm not really in those spheres, but one element is that Patreon isn't going very well, that there is that controversy going on, and people are leaving Patreon. They are going to other platforms such as Subscribestar, but Subscribestar also had issues with the Sargon of Akkad problem, which really makes it an annoying situation. Uh, so it's really annoying because it affects content creator because people are leaving Patreon because they are unsatisfied with the services. And I know that at least I would say I have the certitude that two big patrons left Patreon for this reason by saying outright we are leaving because, well, each one of them said I'm leaving because I'm unhappy with the banning of right-wing figures on Patreon. But another issue is that with all these big content creators like Sam Harris and like there's a bunch of other that aren't necessarily linked to the political sphere. So I've heard that there's like a DIY channel that is leaving, a big DIY channel that is leaving Patreon. So because of this, there are people who leave, Patreon, creators and patrons, so donors, and of course, it has a negative impact in the fact that there's less and less people, and a bunch of my own patrons have left because of that controversy. So that's the first big reason why my Patreon is not doing so well this month, not as well as the past month. And another reason, I think, because I don't want to reduce everything to external problems and say, well, it's just because of what happened in the world, and I have absolutely nothing to criticize myself. Like yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. No, of course. So the other issue with this on my side is I think I haven't put up as much interesting content the past month as I did the month prior to that. I've made, as you have seen, if you have followed my let's say adventures, I've sort of changed my road, and I started a fan art project that was quite big, and then I decided to reboot it into something personal. So I put it, which is a Trilobite 2 story. I decided to make it later and to integrate it into personal stories. So there's like an intense reshaping and working with a writer to sort of make things well. And all that meant that I didn't do like a big juicy set of very well rendered images, fan art images. And I think that it's also a big explanation of why I haven't seen the same growth than previously. So that's pretty much it. So far, as I'm still fine. It's a little bit tight because, as I explained in the previous video, if you want to quickly calculate the amount of money I have in my pocket from the money I have on my Patreon, you need to take off something like 70%. So if I make 600 United States dollars on Patreon, I will have um, something like 150 euro in my pocket at the end of the month, money that I can use to pay the bills and that kind of stuff. So that's also a reason why it's not going that well. Um, so the thing with Patreon is that I'm still going to try. I don't plan on leaving Patreon. I don't plan of working less with Patreon so far. I'm not really happy either with the direction that Patreon seems to be taking, and I recommend you to go look at the Temple video and at the Matt Christiansen video that I'm going to link in the description of this video to see exactly there's a certain instability about all of this situation, where apparently so far Patreon used something called, as defined by Jack Conte, the Patreon CEO, they use something called, if I'm not mistaken, the manifest observable behavior, something like that, which is basically we don't want to support creators on Patreon that are doing things that we find are particularly bad. And it started with the banning, I think, 1 year ago of Lauren Southern, which is a right-wing Canadian reporter. And she did something, she acted something that Patreon considered to be bad. She went on boats and did stuff with boat, migration boat, something like that. But anyways, so that was the explanation. I can understand it, because I think that it's hard on a platform like Patreon to really decide who you want and who you don't want to support, because not everybody, you may not want to support everybody, right? You may not want to support people that are doing things that are particularly bad. There's always a subjective element to it, but I think if we are all honest, I wouldn't want to support, let's say, religious extremists that are decapitating people. That's an extreme example, but it's to show that the principle of not wanting to support everybody is, to me, a valid one. Like, there are limits. We don't want to support child pornography. We don't want to support murderers. I think I wouldn't want. So there need to be some sort of verification. There need to be a way to say, hey, if you do that thing even outside of our platform, we don't accept you on our platform. There are limits. So I can understand. But the issue here with the Sargon of Akkad thing, and this is reinforced by the Patreon representative that talked with Tim Pool and Matt Christiansen, again, video down below, is that apparently it is going to be a case-by-case basis. It's going to be very subjective, and it can be about words. It can go as far the offense, which is very apparently really what they are aiming for, something offensive. Can go as far as decades in the past, like there's no limitation of time through which they can go back in your past and look at stuff. So, and also they stated with Matt Christiansen, they stated in their conversation that Patreon is not a free market, and it's not about freedom of speech either. They said it apparently clearly. No, we'll see what Patreon, if Patreon will publicly say it, confirm that. But if it's the case, it's a little bit problematic, because as far as I'm concerned, as an adult artist, I know that my content, that kind of content, is always frowned upon by a lot of people. And there are good reasons, bad reasons, but it's what is happening. And so the concern, personally, I feel concerned because I'm sort of seeing, recently I've seen that kind of content not really protected or not really well considered for various reasons. In Tumblr is one very good example. Considered that if Tumblr apparently decided that if you want to show that we are fighting pedopornography, we are going to eliminate all adult content. Hop, to make it more family friendly. The issue is that with those statements from Patreon, I'm sort of a little bit, you know, wary about the future of that kind of content on Patreon. What kind of route will Patreon take? It's a little bit shaky, a little bit unstable. I can't say for now. Sure, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe nothing will happen regarding adult content. I guess we will see. I just wanted to share with you my thoughts on the situation and sort of explain you what's going on and what is affecting me. But so to reiterate, I don't plan on leaving Patreon soon, and I will keep on working and developing my stuff. So that's the first chapter. The next chapter is the website, a little bit more positive information. I recently roughly finished a website. I'm going to share it in the description, and that website have cool functionalities that will, I think, improve the Patreon experience. The first thing is that I can link galleries with Patreon pledging, so I can lock things, keep things for patrons. And what I will do from now on is that instead of posting my images on Patreon as the first release for patrons, the early release, I'm going to post them on my website, and it will be easier for you guys to navigate. So you won't have to go through that very bad image system in Patreon. You will have like a regular gallery, so you click on the image and then you can move to the next one and it takes the full screen. So it's going to be more interesting. It's going to be also possible for me to make more interesting process posts. So I will basically merge the two. I will make an example that is available right now is Christian Neomorph. The final update is on the website. At least the images that are finished are on the website, and I will put the finished content and the work in progress will be on the website. So you will be able to see the thing being worked on as I'm working on it. You know, every time I will finish working on an image or updating or finishing a layout or a sketch, a rough, whatever, I will put the image there. And so you will maybe daily or every 2 days, you will be able to go there again and you will see like new stuff building up on that gallery, which is going to be reserved for patrons for $1 pledge. So that's the first interesting functionality for this website. The other interesting element of this website is that it's a place where I'm going to put my lore. So I'm writing stuff alone, but also with other people, informations about characters, about creatures, about the universe. I will progressively build, and I'm going to put articles there with links to each other and some detailed information. So if you like that kind of stuff, well, you will have additional content on top of the image and their stories. You will have additional lore content that isn't available anywhere else. So that's pretty much all of it. Oh yeah, maybe some future stuff. I'm thinking about ways to improve my Patreon and to add additional content. One thing that I might add in the future, things that I may add in the future, will be gathering my thoughts. Sorry, I haven't taken any notes. I should have. So a thing that I would add would be giving the PSD files, the work files of my images for higher pleasure. So I don't know if you are interested by that kind of stuff, but it's something that I may later on, I may add another level of for patrons, so you can have access to my work files. We'll see if I do it or not. I'm still thinking about it. Another thing will be to improve or to change the poll systems for the fan arts, because I think that the fan art may be, and I need to verify this, I'm not so sure, but I think that the fan art may be the biggest reason people are coming to my Patreon, and I need to be careful not to make it, I need to be careful to keep a certain quality of fan art, which is something recently that has sort of fell down a bit. So that's the other thing. Oh, the final thing, I'm also considering to do commissions, and I will, if I do commissions, which I'm not sure of, but I may do it in the weeks, month to come. We'll see. I'm going to try, maybe sometimes I'm going to try like one commission here and there to see how it works and how people react. But if I do this, I will give an advantage to long life patrons, long lasting patrons. So basically, I will give a reduction on my commission fee based on the total amount of money you pledged on my Patreon. And I want this to be a way to reward long-time patrons, because it's something that I haven't found a way to reward yet. I don't know how to reward the people that have pledged more. You know, so some people have been on my Patreon for since the beginning, and yeah, some people have pledged not so far from 1,000 United States dollars, so it's pretty significant. I would like to give them like to reward that, to give an opportunity to reward that, because so far, if you become, let's say, the advantage of newcomers is that the more they come, the later they come on Patreon, the more content there are for them. So if you are $9, if you become a $9 patron now, you have access to all the series of image I did in the past. While if you were becoming a $9 patron 5 months ago, it's like maybe a fraction of what there is today. But if you have been a patron since the beginning, a $9 Patreon, you have been giving $9 every month to get all the images, but basically there's a difference, you know, like there's a disadvantage. I haven't found yet a way to reward that, and I'm going to work on it. So yeah, so that's it. I hope everything was clear. If you have questions, remark, or whatever, go in the comments of this video. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts in general about the topics I talked about. I hope you will have and that you're having a fantastic day. Merry Christmas to everybody. And yeah, see you next time.